close your eyes for a second, just for a second. There are sounds in your head from when you were 8 years old that nobody under 30 has ever heard in their life. The phone in the hallway, the TV warming up in the living room, your mother in the kitchen. Saturday morning, before the rest of the house was awake, you can still hear all of it, every single sound, because some sounds never leave you. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. The rotary phone. You have to start with the rotary phone. There was a black Bakelite phone sitting on a little table in the hallway of your house, and that phone weighed as much as a brick, and the cord was curly and tangled and stretched all the way to the bottom of the stairs, so you could sit on the third step and have a private conversation while your mother pretended not to listen from the kitchen. Dialing was an event. You hooked your finger in the hole for the number, you pulled the dial all the way around to the metal stopper, you let go. It went click, 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 as it spun back to the start. 7 clicks for a local number. 10 if you were calling long distance and your father had told you not to. The whole time the dial was spinning back, you had a moment to think about whether you really wanted to call this person, to gather your courage, to rehearse what you were going to say. Today, nobody dials anything. They tap a name. There is no waiting. There's no clicking. There's no third step on the stairs. The phone in your hallway is gone, and so is the kid who sat on those stairs whispering into it. The TV warming up. Walking into the living room and pressing the button on the front of the wood cabinet television, there was a hum from the back, a low electric warming sound. The picture tube took 30 seconds to come alive, sometimes longer in winter. You stood there waiting for the green tint to fade and the picture to focus. Sometimes you whacked the side of the cabinet because your dad said that helped. To change the channel, you walked up to the set, grabbed the rotary knob, and turned it. Click, click, click. Through 13 channels UHF on the separate dial below. The little red glow of the tuner indicator. There was no remote in your house. There was no remote in any house. You walked up to the TV when you wanted to change the channel, and most of the time you just left it on whatever was playing because getting up was a whole production. The sign-off at midnight. This is the one. If you stayed up too late on a Saturday night and you fell asleep on the couch with the TV on, eventually the station would end. They would end the broadcast. They would play the national anthem over images of the American flag, waving in slow motion. You would half wake with the anthem in your ear. Then there was the test pattern with the Indian head logo and that piercing, sustained tone, and then static. Snow, a hissing electronic blizzard filling the screen. Today, TV doesn't end. There is no last broadcast. The next episode plays automatically. The algorithm cues another show, but in 1975, the day was over because CBS said it was over. The flag waved, the anthem played, the screen went to snow, and you woke up at 2 a.m. with a blanket your mother had thrown over you. You turned off the set, and you went to bed in a country that had a bedtime. Saturday morning, 6 in the morning.
Come to the honeycomb hideout.
I'm Big Betty the Blonde Bomber, and I want a big cereal.
Honeycomb's big. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You were the first one awake in the whole house. You walked down the carpeted hallway in your pajamas, your hair sticking up. You poured yourself a bowl of Cap'n Crunch or Frosted Flakes, and you carried it into the living room. You turned on the wood cabinet TV. You waited 30 seconds, and then it started. The NBC Peacock chime, the CBS network bumper, the opening theme to Scooby-Doo, the Pink Panther music, Bugs Bunny saying, "What's up, Doc?" You sat cross-legged on the carpet at 6 in the morning with a bowl of cereal in your lap, and the most important thing in the world was happening on the screen in front of you. Your parents were still in bed. The house was quiet, the sun was just coming up through the curtains, and you were 8 years old and Saturday morning was yours. That was childhood. That was the best part of the whole week. And no kid in America today has ever woken up at 6 on a Saturday morning to sit on a carpet in pajamas with a bowl of cereal because Scooby-Doo was about to start. They can watch it anytime. They can pause it. They can rewind it. So they don't. So nobody does. The 8-track.
And the Panasonic Dynamite 8 that plays 8-track cartridges. It's a blast.
Your father had an 8-track player in the dashboard of the car. The cartridges were big plastic bricks. He pushed one in. There was a click, the whir of the tape finding its place, then the music. Stairway to Heaven, Hotel California, The Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, and right in the middle of the guitar solo, it would happen. Ka-chunk. The track changed. The song stopped mid-note. There was a silent second, then the next part of the song picked up. Every kid who grew up in the 70s knows that K-chunk. It interrupted every great song you ever loved. The cartridges sat warm on the dashboard in the summer sun. They smelled like plastic and gasoline. Your father would tap his fingers on the steering wheel, keeping time. You sat in the passenger seat with the window down and your hand out riding the wind. And the 8-track player would K-chunk right in the middle of the guitar solo, and your dad just smiled because that was how music worked. Vinyl record.
Run, 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 gypsy dead.
Your older sister had a record player in her bedroom. Sometimes she let you in. You watched her lift the tone arm with 2 fingers. You watched her lower it slowly. There was a brief pop and a soft crackle of static, then a moment of silence. Then the first note of the song bloomed out of the speakers. Carole King, Carly Simon, James Taylor, the smell of the cardboard album sleeve, the little click at the end when the needle reached the inner groove and the album was over. Sometimes the needle would skip on a scratch and the same 2 seconds of song would play over and over until somebody got up to fix it. That was music. Tactile and physical. Something you held in your hands, something that ended and you had to walk over and turn the record to side B. Today, music is invisible. There is no needle, there is no crackle, there is no side B, and nothing about modern music feels like anything. The cassette tape rewind. The hiss that built into a high-pitched whine as the player rewound your favorite mixtape. You pressed stop. You hit play, you overshot, you pressed rewind again, you tried to land at exactly the start of your song. You usually missed by a few seconds and had to do it again. And sometimes the tape would get eaten by the player and come out in a tangled mess, and you would carefully pull it back into the cassette with the tip of a pencil, winding the little gear at the top. That was how you saved music. That was how you made a tape for the girl you liked. You sat in your bedroom with 2 tape decks pressing play on one and record on the other, and you spent 4 hours making a mixtape that took her 3 days to listen to. Then she told you it was beautiful, and you remember exactly which songs were on it. You remember in what order. You remember everything. The typewriter.
So now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party.
There was a typewriter in your house and somebody used it. Maybe your father at the kitchen table on Sunday paying bills. Maybe your mother typing a letter to her sister in California. Maybe you in your bedroom in 1978 typing your 7th grade book report on Treasure Island. The keys struck the paper with mechanical authority. Each letter was a little hammer hitting the page. The bell rang at the end of every line. Then chunk as the carriage returned to the start. The smell of the fresh ribbon ink. Making a typo meant correction fluid or starting the whole page over. Every word you typed was a decision you had to commit to. You could not delete. You could not undo. The clack of those keys filled a quiet room on a Sunday afternoon with rain on the windows. That sound is gone now. The whole world types in silence. Nothing strikes the page, nothing rings a bell, nothing chunks back to the start, and nobody under 40 has ever made the deliberate decision to type a single word. The Polaroid.
And it's only $13.95.
Christmas morning 1976. Your father lifted the Polaroid SX70 out of its leather case. Everybody gathered in front of the tree. He pressed the shutter. There was a flash. There was a mechanical whir as the camera ejected a square photo onto the floor. You picked it up. It was gray, green, and blurry. You waved it in the air even though they told you not to, and you watched faces appear out of the chemical fog, your sister laughing, your grandmother holding her cup of coffee, your mother in her bathrobe, a photo of Christmas morning forming in your hand right in front of your eyes like magic. Today, every photo is instant and disposable. You take 100, you delete 80, you forget the rest. But that one Polaroid from Christmas 1976 is still in a shoebox in your closet, faded now, edges yellowed, but she is still laughing, and he is still holding the camera. Still. The ice cream truck. Late afternoon in summer, you were in the backyard playing with the kids from down the street, and then you heard it, coming from somewhere 2 blocks away. The bells. Pop Goes the Weasel, or Greensleeves, or that Mr. Softy jingle that played the same 8 notes over and over. You stopped what you were doing. You ran. You ran across yards. You ran past the Petersons' fence. You ran toward your own back door yelling, "Mom, Mom, ice cream truck." And your mother already had a quarter ready because she had heard it too. You stood at the truck window pointing at the laminated picture menu. A red rocket popsicle, a vanilla cone with rainbow sprinkles. The driver knew your name. Every kid on the block was at the truck. The truck pulled away, and you sat on the curb eating that popsicle as the bells got faint and finally disappeared down the next street. That was summer. That was being a kid in 1972. And every adult in America still hears those bells in their dreams. The lawnmower.
They don't have one of these, a conventional carburetor. The Eager one has a totally new carburation system.
Saturday morning, 8 a.m., you were still in bed. And then it started. The pull cord, the sputter, the pull cord again, then the roar of your father's gas mower as he started cutting the lawn in perfectly straight lines, up, down, up, down. The smell of cut grass and gasoline came through your open bedroom window. You knew you were not going back to sleep, so you got up and walked into the kitchen in your pajamas. Your mother had pancakes on the griddle, the radio was on, and your father was outside doing the work he did every Saturday morning of every summer of your entire childhood. That was a father. That was a Saturday. That was America in 1973, and the sound of a gas mower starting up in someone else's yard can still take you back to that exact morning if you let it. The pinball machine. Friday night at the bowling alley, the arcade, or the little corner store with the one machine in the back. You had a pocket full of quarters. You stood at the machine with your hands on the flippers, and the little silver ball ricocheted off the bumpers. The bells rang, the chimes dinged, and the score wheels spun and clattered. The machine breathed. It lit up. It made noise like nothing else. You tried to nudge it without tilting it. You pulled the plunger back to launch the next ball. There was the smell of dirty quarters in your pocket, the smell of pizza from the kitchen, the smell of cigarette smoke from the men playing the machine next to yours. That was Friday night for a generation of American teenagers. The whole arcade is gone. Quarters are gone. The pinball machine in the back of the corner store is gone. And the kid who stood there at 14 years old with his hands on those flippers is now a grandfather. The cash register. Your mother took you to the grocery store. You stood next to her at the checkout while the lady rang up the order. Ka-ching! The drawer flew open. The lady made change, counting back the coins one by one into your mother's palm. The clatter of pennies, the tear of the paper receipt. There was no beep in 1974. The sound of money was a real physical sound, metal on metal, a drawer opening with weight, a bell ringing when the total came up, a receipt printed on a roll of paper with carbon between the layers. Today, every store goes beep and beep and beep. The screen tells you the total. A card swipes silently, and there is no sound at all. The money makes no noise. The buying makes no noise. The whole economy of America used to ka-ching, and now it does not even whisper. The Cicadas. Late August. You were 11 years old. You were sitting on the back porch with a popsicle melting down your arm. The sun was going down, the light through the trees was gold, and the cicadas were singing in the trees behind your house. That high electric humming buzz filled the entire backyard. The sound of summer ending, the sound of school starting in 2 weeks, the sound that meant your bare feet were about to go back into shoes, your shorts were about to be replaced by long pants, and your whole long, endless summer was almost over. The cicadas knew before you did. You sat on that porch with the popsicle dripping and you listened to them, and you did not know yet that one day you would be 65 years old and you would sit on a different porch in a different state and you would hear the cicadas again and you would be 11 again for 1 second. That sound never left you, and it will be the last sound you remember when everything else has gone quiet. You can still hear them, all of them. The phone in the hallway, the busy signal, the TV warming up, the national anthem at midnight, the cartoons on Saturday morning, the 8-track ka-chunking in the car, the needle on the record, the cassette rewind, the keys of the typewriter, the whir of the Polaroid, the bells of the ice cream truck, the roar of the lawnmower, the pinball machine ringing, the cash register ka-chinging, the cicadas in late August. Every one of those sounds is a room in your memory you can walk back into for 10 seconds and live in again. The world outside has gone silent. The world has gone digital. Everything beeps now, or makes no sound at all. But in your head, you can still hear all of it, and as long as you can hear it, it is not gone. If one of these sounds just took you back, tell me which one. If you remember sitting on the carpet on a Saturday morning with cereal in your lap, tell me which cartoon was on. If you ever made a mixtape for somebody you loved, tell me what the first song was, and if you can still hear the cicadas in late August from a porch you have not stood on in 50 years, tell me about it. I read every single comment.